It's TK Friday, and today in the joy of editing, I'll be doing another full edit. I'll be doing a lot of dodging and burning with blend diff in this episode. Stay tuned. Hello everyone, and welcome to the joy of editing with Dave Kelly. It is TK Friday, and today it's going to be another full edit. This image comes to us from AZ. Thank you for the image, AZ. As always, you can download the image and PDF notes. I'll have Dropbox links in the description below this video. Click on more, and that opens up the description. Scroll down through, and you will find the links. If you have an image you'd like me to edit on a TK Friday, scroll down even further. You'll find a Contact Me link. Click on that link, Contact Me, and we can discuss doing one of your images on a TK Friday. If you don't yet own the TK9 plugin for Photoshop, I will have links in the description below this video where you could pick up the TK9 plugin for Photoshop along with training videos. Right now, there's a new TK Print plugin along with a video series by Sean Bagshaw that goes along with it. It's absolutely free, the video series and the print plugin, so I highly recommend that you pick those up. There's an introductory sale going on right now, and it's soon to come to an end. It ends on July 31st, 2024. You'll be able to save 25% off your entire purchase. That's training videos, the TK9 plugin for Photoshop, anything that Tony Kuiper offers at his web store. Use my promo code DK15 so I can get credit if you purchase something. This helps support my channel, and the DK15 will get you 25% off. Not 15% as it always does, but 25% off. So DK15, 25% off. The sale ends July 31st. Now let's go ahead and dive right into the full edit. As always, I start out here in Lightroom and I just do some basic edits. I did use a linear profile for AZ's camera. I want to have a relatively flat image going into Photoshop, so just some basic edits here, as you can see. And then as far as detail, I just did a little bit of sharpening, some noise reduction. For lens corrections, I always check on remove chromatic aberration and enable profile corrections. I didn't do a crop to this image, so now at this point, I'll just right-click on the image, go to Edit In, click on Edit in Photoshop 2024. But as always, I'm already there. The first thing I want to do is set myself up for success. And what I mean by that is I want to save out as channels things that I'll be using throughout the edit. And that will be a sky channel, foreground channel, and a background channel. I'll start out with the sky channel. Now, this is really easy. On your combo or CX panel, look for this button right here. Hold your Command or Control key down and click on this sky button. And you'll notice we save out a sky channel. It's just that easy. Next, we'll save out a foreground and background channel. I'll use a depth map for this. So what we want to do is come up to the multi-mask panel, hold your Command or Control key down and click on this target button. And now you'll notice we do have a background depth map. Now we need to save this as a channel, so click Save as a Channel Only, and you'll notice we have it right down here. And the next step is to click on Depth Map and double click on the name Depth Map, and it highlights this field, and we can type in BG for the background. Now what we need to do is make a foreground depth map, so click on Background, click and drag down to the plus. That'll duplicate it. See, it says copy. Now double click on the name BG copy and type in FG for the foreground. But right now it's just the duplicate. We need to invert this, so come up to the combo or CX panel and click your invert button, and now it's inverted. So now it truly is a foreground, as you can see right here. And now click RGB so we can see the image. Now if we look down here in channels, we can see there's our background, our sky and foreground channels saved out. And now we're going to do a balance and contrast adjustment for the foreground, the background, and the sky. I need 3 color grading tools for the balance and contrast adjustment. So I'll click on the color grading tool button on the multi-mask panel. That'll give me one tool. I'll click the plus on the panel, and that'll give me a second color grading tool. Now I need one more. I'll do that a different way. But next we'll set these up for foreground and background. Now I need a layer mask calculator for this. So what I'm going to do, you see this button right here? I'm going to Command or Control click it. When you do that, that keeps this open so it doesn't close. Because anytime you make a calculation, it will automatically close for you. But that'll keep it open. And then when you want to close it, just click the X. Right now, you'll notice the top color grading tool is active. I'm going to use this for the background. So I'm going to click on the BG for background. I'll click this button to apply it. So now we can see there is that mask. I don't want the sky, so I'm going to click on sky and click the minus and subtract out the sky. Now this will be the background. I'm going to go ahead and name this. So I'm going to just double click on the name here. I'll highlight color grading and just type in BG. Now it's important when you have a color grading tool, make sure you have TK in parentheses or else the color grading tool won't work. But you can rename color grading layers. Now I'll click on the first color grading tool and I'm going to double click right here in the name color grading. And again, I'll highlight color grading. And this time I'm going to type in FG for the foreground. And again, make sure you keep TK in parentheses. Now just come back to the mask calculator, click on foreground, and we'll click this button and apply the mask for the foreground. Now we need to make a sky color grading layer. Now we need to get to the multi-mask panel, and right now the color grading tool's in the way. Click the X, nothing changes down here. Click on the My Channels button, click on Sky, and now click on the Mask Calculator button. Click X to intersect, because what I want to do is intersect the midtones 3 to protect shadows and highlights from clipping. And to do that, we click on the Luminosity Mask button, click on midtones 3, click Equal to make the calculation, and now you can see the sky has the midtones 3 mask in it, and just output it to a color grading tool by clicking this button right here, and there it is right there. And I'm going to double click the name, I'll highlight color grading, and I'll type in sky. And now I'll click on the foreground layer to make it active. I don't need the layer mask calculator, so I'll click the X to close it. Now I get my combo panel back. I use my combo panel for all the various buttons on here, and I use my CX panel for my actions. I'll start out with midtone, so I'll click on the midtone button on the color grading tool, and I'll drag the brightness slider to the right, and I will take it over to right there, plus 40. And now I'll click on the shadow button, and we'll darken up those shadows, and I'll drag this brightness slider to the left over to right there, a minus 26. Let me shut this layer off. Here's before and here's after. And remember, it's being controlled by this foreground depth map. And now we're going to work on the background. So we'll click on the background layer to make it active. And I'll click on the midtone button on the color grading tool. I'm going to lighten up my midtones to somewhere right around here, plus 45. And now for the shadows, I'll click on the shadow button and I want to darken up the shadows, and I'll take them to right here, a minus 29. Now let's take a look. Here's before and here is after. And now for the sky. So click on the sky layer, make it active, and I'll click on the midtone button. We'll do the midtones first. I want to slightly darken the midtone, so I'll take the brightness slider and drag it to the left over to right there, a minus 4. Now I'll click on the highlight button, and I want to open up the highlights a bit up to right there, plus 15. Now let me shut this layer off. Here's before and here's after. Now let's look at the overall before after for the whole image. On my combo panel, I'm going to click this before after button. We can see here's before. We started here and now we're here, and I think we're off to a good start. If you're following along with the PDF notes, we're on step 3, which is a midtone contrast. One of my favorite adjustments, just giving contrast to midtones. Right now, the color grading tool's in the way. I'll click the X. Nothing changes on the layers. We're going to click on the luminosity mask button, and we're going to click on midtones 3, the strongest of the 3 midtones. Output it to a curves adjustment layer, and then in the properties panel, see where it says preset, click this drop down, click on strong contrast, and we get a nice saturation bump, and we get a nice contrast boost just in midtones, which is really beautiful. And now I'm going to come to the opacity slider for the layer, click right here, and just drag back the opacity to right there, 70%. Now let me shut this off. Here's before and here's after. That is a really nice adjustment. Whenever I do a midtone contrast adjustment, I usually like to follow it up with a lightening of the midtones, which is really easy to do. All we need to do is come up to the multi-mask panel, click on the luminosity mask button, click on midtones 1, the weakest of the midtones, output it to a curves adjustment layer, and then on either the combo or CX panel, click the SCR button for screen blend mode, lightens up our midtones. My layer opacity is 100%. 20%. It looks a little too light. I tried something different this time. I went up to the multi-mask panel and clicked on the Edit Blend Diff button, and then I tried some different luminosity values. I tried like lights 1, and that really tamed it down. I tried midtones 3, and then I tried darks 1, and I really liked what darks 1 is doing. So I'm mainly targeting the darker midtones. We can disable blend diff on the layer by unchecking gray. So look at the image. I'm going to uncheck this. Here it is without blend diff, and here it is with. I really like that. And now if I shut off this layer where I lightened up the midtones, here's before and here's after. The next thing I want to do is darken this water in this area because it's too light drawing the eye, and I need to tone it down. So I'm going to burn it a little bit, and I will use a zone mask to help me target this area. But then following this, I will be doing some more dodging and burning, but I'll be using the aid of blend diff to help me, which is becoming one of my favorite ways of targeting an area to dodge and burn, but that'll be coming up. But first, I'll be using a zone mask. The Edit Blend Diff panel is in the way right now, so I'll click the X to close it. Now we can see our multi-mask panel. Nothing changes on any blend diff layers. And now I'll click on the Zone Mask button, and now we need to target a tone that represents the area we want to darken. So I think right here I'm going to click, and then click OK in the color picker, and now we can see the area. Now I need to do something called tighten and lighten to refine this, so here's what I'll do. I'll start by dragging this slider to the right a little bit just to see if I can target that better, and I think right there 171 should be good. And now I want to tighten, so let me go ahead and drag this slider to the left, and I want to take it to like right about here. See how it tightens it up? The light area is what I'm interested in. That's what I want to darken. And then I'll take this brightness slider and lighten that up a little bit to somewhere right about there should be good. Okay, now I need to output this mask. I'll output it as a selection to a burn tool, and to do that, you'll find this button right here. It has two sides. The left side gives you a 50% gray layer. The right side gives you transparent pixel layer. You could use either side in this case. I'm going to use the right side, and you can see by the selection indicator that I will be painting through a selection. I have a black brush, and what I need to do, I need a lower opacity brush, and I need like 20%, so I'm going to type my 2 key. That's the shortcut for 20%. And now it's time to burn. So I'm going to get a larger brush here and just start painting over these darker areas like this. Now I haven't lifted my brush. I'm just painting. And that selection I'm painting through is only targeting light areas. Now I'll lift my brush. I'm going to paint again and darken it a second time. Maybe over in here again. Up in here, over here, get this another time. I'll get this one more time in here, and I'm building it up slowly. That's why I use 20%. I'm going to get a smaller brush and paint on some of these light areas here. That's 1 pass, 2, 3, 4. Paint up in here just to darken these down a little bit like so, and I think that's good. Now let me go ahead and shut this layer off. So here's before and here's after. And that looks good. I wish this was a little bit darker. So here's something you could try. This is using a soft light blend mode for the burn tool, but you could try an overlay blend mode. So on the combo panel, I'll click OVL for overlay and see how that's darker. And that looks better. I really like that. Let me shut this off. Here's before and here is after. And now our eye is not drawn in this area as much. Now, if it's too strong, you always have your opacity for the layer. You can always click and drag this slider to the left and reduce the amount of the burning if you need to. But I like it. I'm going to leave it the way it is. Next, I'm going to do a little bit of a freehand vignette, and then we'll get on to more dodging and burning. For the freehand vignette, we need to make a selection. So I'm just going to click on a lasso tool. And what I'm going to do is draw like a triangle like this. Right through here to keep the light mainly in the center of the image, kind of going down this way because it's all light down in here and I want to darken everything around that. And now what we do after we've drawn that lasso, we can click freehand vignette. A Gaussian blur comes up, just click OK. And it's at 30%, but that's too strong. So I'm going to click the drop down and drag this back to 20%. So now let me shut this off. Here is before and here is after. All right, now I'm looking at these rocks up here in the foreground. I just like to darken the lighter rocks down just a little bit, not much, just to, so they're not right in our face. Just tone them down a little bit. Now, this is where I use the help of Blend If. So I'm going to come up to the multi-mask panel, click on this button. This lets us make a Blend If mask. However, I'm not going to use a mask. I'll output this to Blend If on the layer. I'll show you a tip how to do that. So I'm going to click on this button right here. This gives us a picker tool. And what I need to do is find a light tone in a rock that I want to sample, like right here, and click OK. And all those light areas on the rocks are the areas that I'm targeting. Now, I can take this bottom slider and just drag it to the left a little bit. It'll let me go into the darker tones a little bit more. See, like right there. And I think somewhere right about there should be good. Now, I want to output this to a burn tool. I can use the left or right side, but here's the little trick and the tip. Hold your shift key down and click on either side. I'm going to use the right side. It doesn't matter here. So I'll click on the right side. And now you'll notice I have Blend If on the layer. And what's really nice about this, after I start painting on here, I can always come back and readjust Blend If later, which is nice. So what I'll do is I'll just start painting on these light rocks, and I can just paint right over the whole thing. I don't have to be that careful here. I'm just looking for light rocks. I'm just going to paint over this entire area like this. Now this rock's a little bit lighter, so I'm going to paint one more time, and I lifted the brush. I'll paint it again and again. Anything that looks too light, you can, change your brush size, and see this rock right here. I can make it smaller and paint over this rock a couple times and this one. You're just looking for those light rocks that are kind of drawing your eye, and you don't want that. And so I'm going to come out in here. Let's get this over in here, maybe back in here, get this, and come over here a couple times. Now I'm going fast here, so don't fault me if I miss one of the light rocks. It's just because I'm making a video and I have to go fast. I think I'm done at this point. Let me shut this layer off. Here is before and here's after. Now, if you're too strong, remember you got the opacity. And what I like to do is click on this little arrow pointing down, drag this the whole way off, and then start to build it up slowly, and then stop when you think it looks good. And I'm thinking maybe right about here, around 55%. Let me shut this off. Here is before and here's after, but see how our eye is not drawn to those rocks as much? That just tones them down. But now we have the Blend If on the layer. And so you could always come here and click on the Edit Blend If button and readjust these sliders. And you could click on the magenta double arrow to see the areas you've targeted. And, you could adjust the slider and maybe pick up more tones or less tones like this. Click on this double arrow magenta slider again and see the image back. And now if I shut off Blend If by unchecking the gray, you can see what it would look like without the Blend If. If I check the gray back on, and this is what it looks like with Blend If. And now I want to do some dodging, like some of these grasses in here, some of the light hitting across here, back in here, and on the left side over here in the foreground. I'll use Blend If again. Now my Edit Blend If panel is in the way, so I'll click the X. Nothing changes on any Blend If layers. I'll click this button so I can generate a mask for Blend If, but I'm not going to use a mask. I'll do that same little trick. I'll click on this picker tool, and I want to pick a light tone back in here, like right here. We'll click OK, and all those light areas will be the areas I'm selecting. Now, I might be able to get some more light areas in here. Now, here's a tip for you. See these bottom two handles? They're dealing with shadows. If you hold your Command or Control key down and click on either one of these handles, you can move these in tandem. So I'm going to drag these a little to the left into darker tones. So I'm holding my Command key down, and I'm going to click on this handle and drag it to the left, and see how I can bring in some more of those tones, maybe to right there. See these lighter tones coming in here? That'll let me be a little more aggressive with my dodging. And now I need to output this, so I want to dodge, so I can use the left or the right side of the dodge tool, but remember my trick. Hold your shift key down. I'm going to use the right side, which is a transparent pixel layer, and click right here. As you can see, I have Blend If on that layer, targeting the tones that I picked. So now let's do some dodging. Right now, my opacity is at 20%. I'm going to type my 0 and 5 key. That gets me 5% because I want to be very light-handed here because I'm not going through a selection. So we got to be careful to build this up slowly. So what I'm going to do is paint across here, Just like that. There's one pass, there's another pass. I'm going to paint across here. If I go out into the sky, I can fix that because I can put a mask on there and subtract the sky. So I'm lifting my brush and painting over this several times. I'm going to get this in here, maybe down in here a little bit, maybe on my grasses up in here, just to lighten them up. It'll look a little bit more interesting. And down over in here a little bit. And just look in this area right here. I'm going to shut this layer off. Here's before and here's after. But see that nice little light in there? And now I'm going to come back in here and zing a little bit of light through here. I think that'll look nice and up in here. And now I'm going to come on this side and paint some light in here. We're painters of light here when we dodge. So we're going to just lighten this up a little bit. And I'm going to come on these grasses down in here, lighten these up a little bit. And I don't know. I think that's good. Let me shut this off. Here is before and here is after. Isn't that nice? Before and after. And I like that little light that comes back in here. I may hit this down in here one more time like that. And maybe right there. And maybe there one time. And let me shut this off again. Here's before and here's after. Hey, and if I miss something, again, I'm making a video, so don't fault me for that. And now if we overpainted and got into the sky, here's what we can do. We could come to our layer mask calculator, click this button right here on your combo or CX panel, and click on sky and click the minus to subtract it. And now you don't have to worry if you shot out into the sky. Pretty cool, right? And now let's burn some shadows up in the sky. So again, I'm going to click my blend if mask creation button, click on my picker tool, and I'm going to sample one of the tones over here, one of the darker cloud tones right here. Click OK. And then I'm going to take this top handle and drag it to the left a little bit, just to fine tune that a little bit. Maybe right here. I can always come back here later and fine tune the blend if settings if I need to. And now let's output this to a burn tool. So I'm going to hold my shift key down and click on the right side of the burn tool. Gives me a transparent pixel layer in the soft light blend mode. And now with a decent sized brush, I can just start coming and painting. Now, again, every time I lift my brush and paint again, I'm adding more of that adjustment. So I'm staying away from the blue areas in here, but I'm mainly looking for darker clouds. If I get into the foreground, I'm not worried about it because I can fix that with a mask. No problem whatsoever. And I might get up here a little bit and maybe here one more time. Let me shut this layer off. Here is before and here is after. Again, before and after. Now, what we can do is click on this Edit Blend If button on the multi-mask panel, and we can make adjustments here. For instance, I could take either one of these handles here, hold my Command or Control key down, and drag this to the right, picking up more of the lighter shadowy areas. So I'm going to hold my Command key down and start to drag this to the right. See how I can bring in more of the shadows, which is pretty nice. So you can readjust this and tweak it. And this is what I really love about dodging and burning with Blend If. It's really cool. So now let me shut this off. Here is before and here is after. Now remember, you always have your layer opacity. You can pull it back if needed. But I think I'm okay with this for now. I can always change it later if I'm not happy. If you overshot into the foreground, all you need to do is click on your layer mask calculator button and click on sky and click apply. And now you've dropped out the foreground. Just a couple steps and we're done. I want to add a basic vignette to this image. So if your TK actions aren't open, click your TK action button. I happen to have mine open, so I'll click on vignette. A Gaussian blur dialog comes up. I just click OK. And we're defaulted at an opacity of 30%, which I think is good. But I'd like to keep the vignette out of my darkest tones. Now my Edit Blend If panel is still opened and I'm on this vignette layer. So I can click No Darks 2 and keep it out of my darkest darks. Now look in the corner down here and I will shut off the Blend If. See how it gets darker and now it gets a little lighter there in the corner. Now let me shut off the vignette. Here's before and here's after. One more step and we are through. Right now my Edit Blend If panel is in the way of my multi-mask panel, so I'll click the X. And what I want to do for this last step is bring out the saturation in some of the weaker colors. And so what I'll do is I'll click this button on the multi-mask panel, which will let me create a saturation or a vibrance mask. To bring up weaker colors, you want vibrance. So here's vibrance 1. As you can see all the light areas, it would be a really strong adjustment, too strong. Here's vibrance 2, too strong, and here's vibrance 3, and here's vibrance 4. I think Vibrance 4 is going to be it. I'll click this button to output it to a hue saturation adjustment layer. And here's the mask on the hue saturation adjustment layer. And now I'm targeting those weaker colors. So I'll take the saturation slider, drag it to the right over to right there, plus 44. Let me shut this off. Here's before and here's after. I don't like it in the sky, so what I can do is click on my layer mask calculator, click on sky, and click the minus to subtract the sky. Now here's the before and here's the after. I really like it. Now let's look at the overall before and after. On my combo panel, I'll click the before after button. We started out here and we end up here, and I'm really happy with the way this edit turned out, and I hope you'll download the image and PDF notes and give this edit a try. I hope you enjoyed today's full edit tutorial. A lot of dodging and burning in here using edit blend if, so hopefully you learned a lot. If you enjoyed today's tutorial, please give it a like and share it with your friends, and if you're not yet a subscriber to this channel, please subscribe, click the bell notification icon, click all so that you'll receive all notifications, and then every time I upload a new tutorial, you'll get notified about it. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me today in the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly. I will see you all right here next time, but until then, happy editing.